the foundations of the club are there, but ever changing are the dynamics of what our membership are and what the experience they're after. And so the Albury Club has been really proactive in recognising, acknowledging, yes, there's changing times and socially there's variations from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago of what expectations were of individuals in terms of their home life and also their social lives. So we've been really proactive, ensuring that we can keep in touch with what our members expect and the experiences are of a private members club.
Yeah. Welcome to a new journey. I'm your host, Matt Griffith, and with me today is the General Manager of the Albury Club, Dee Healey. Dee, hello.
G'day, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. Looking forward to this chat, learning a little bit more about yourself and also the club. It is one of the great institutions on the border, of course. I mean, I hope I've got my year right here. 1877?
Yeah, that's right, Matt. 147 years of history at the Albury Club, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and obviously all the while, massive changes in terms of the culture and society and everything to actually survive and flourish in changing times like that. That's an achievement in itself, really. Absolutely,
and I think that's probably a keystone to the success. Whilst there's been a lot of changes within the dynamics of culture and society, the Albury Club's been able to keep its foundations with its history, but nodding to changes in circumstances that are theirs that are out of their control. So
yeah,
really fortunate, and the club's really steeped in history, and the foundation that it has within the Albury-Wodonga roots is really incredible.
Yeah. Well, before we crack on to yourself, because we always kick off with a question about where you're born and raised and the like, I just want to, for those that don't know exactly the history and the role that the Albury Club has played, how would you define what it is today and what it has been over the decades?
Yeah, Albury Club today, in layman's terms, is a men's shed without tools. It's an incredible place that has around 600 members, of which 25% of those are rural members, so a really strong tie and affiliation to our rural community, that has a meeting place and an opportunity for like-minded individuals to catch up and meet in surrounds that are sympathetic and to what they expect as a private members club. So
yeah,
an amazing club, an amazing history, a lot of work within the community, which is perhaps unseen with fundraising and the like, which we do a lot of, and a lot of charitable work that the Albury Club does. But in a nutshell, we're a really inclusive club that enjoys and embraces its history, and enjoys its ties and relationship with the Albury-Wodonga region as well.
Yeah, but for those who, again, don't know, I mean, they may have the perception that it's, excuse the term, but maybe a stuffy, old, men's club, the kind of cliche variety or stereotypical variety. But of course it's not. I've been to a number of events there, and there's a lot of ladies there. Yeah,
there is. And Matt, we pride ourselves on our ability to be inclusive to the extent that we can under our constitution and bylaws. But hand on heart, there are 2 events at the Albury Club a year that are exclusively for our male members and guests. Every other event that we host are mixed events. So, and that's something that we really encourage and embrace, the ability to be inclusive, the ability to have events that are hosted that are varied from charitable events through to weddings, which we do a lot of. We've got a gorgeous rose garden and outdoor area that lends itself really well to external events and the like. So I recognise the knowledge there. There could be that perception of it being stuffy and inclusive, but to be fair, those who have experienced the Albury Club, that have been to events or know and been to our place, really recognise, acknowledge that it's perhaps more the opposite to that. Inclusivity, the ability to feel comfortable in the environs that we have at the Albury Club is really, really nice.
Yeah.
We host lots of events that are lady-only events as well, which is fabulous. So, yeah, the stereotypical component of it being a stale old men's club certainly isn't the case, and those who have experienced the club would attest to that.
Yeah. And what does your role entail?
Yeah, being a smaller club, I guess, I have my finger on most of the pulse in terms of the operational components of the business. We have 2 main facets, being our member and membership as well as our external events. And the external events, to be fair, are probably the profitable arm, for want of a better word, of the business for the Albury Club, and probably have the biggest reach in terms of the Albury-Wodonga and greater region. We do a lot of great work with Albury Council for conferences and events that come in to Albury, and host a lot of bespoke canopy and welcome events for delegates and the like, which is fabulous. But we're very, very fortunate. So my role really, under the direction of the board, steers the ship operationally, but then helps the board with those more important matters around corporate governance, strategic planning and compliance as well.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get back to the Albury Club and your role and challenges soon, but let's start with the traditional question then. Now we've knocked that out of the way. Your heritage and background to the region. Are you born and bred here? Or?
Not born and bred here, Matt. My parents moved up from Melbourne in the mid-'80s. So they bought a little bit of property out at Burrumbuttock and built a house. So we moved, mid-'80s. Was when I first started high school. So I went to high school at the then Albury North. Which is fabulous. So I grew up in the region, loved the region, the heavily into sport. So sport and the culture of sport in Albury is massive, and certainly when I grew up, it was, and it still is, and we'll get into later, was a key reason for coming back to the region with family. The sporting aspect, the lifestyle aspect, the river. I still have fond memories of floating down the river and going skiing with mates and doing that sort of fun stuff. So the region itself was a fabulous place to grow up. And so, grew up in Albury until I finished high school and then did some studies and moved abroad. Yeah,
moved abroad.
Abroad in terms of domestically, and we'll get into that a bit later, but I've certainly done a little bit of travel domestically, which is nice. Yeah.
So where did you go after high school initially?
So I finished high school, and at that time, wasn't completely sure what I wanted to do, Matt, to be fair. I'm probably not Robinson Crusoe in that space, but finished a diploma in business. And at that stage, I was working at the Commercial Club under Mr. Duck, Mr. Bruce Tuck, who is a cracker. And I actually did a 3-year apprenticeship as a fine dining waiter at the Commercial Club. So I would have been the last indentured apprentice in Australia that went through as a 3-year apprenticeship as a fine dining waiter, which was fabulous. And working in the old Red Room back in the day with the fine dining silver service, gridiron work, cooking at the table, all that sort of fun stuff, which is fabulous. So a great grounding and foundation in hospitality. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time at the Commercial Club. So I did 3 years there, and then got the bug to travel. So I was fortunate enough to land a job on Hayman Island up in the Sundays, and Hayman Island was at that stage in the mid 90s, was owned by Ansett, and was sort of one of the leading hotels in Australia, if not the world, in 5-star properties. And it was an amazing product, and really set the tone for my understanding, being an Albury regional hospitality person, and moving into a place that had 3/4 of the staff were international staff, and a product that was incredibly rich in terms of its exposure to 5-star experience was amazing. So I was very, very fortunate to spend sort of 3 years on Hayman, working my way through into running restaurants up there at that stage. And it was an amazing product, an amazing time.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that a degree in business can lead you to, any number of industries. So was it really that experience at the Commercial Club that made you go, you know what, hospitality is actually the right thing?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And I found that passion for hospitality there, no doubt. And so that it was an easy transition once I'd got into that field to know that that's what my passion and what I enjoy and loved. And it wasn't something that initially I thought was going to be the case. And some people in hospitality, that's similar to, they find that where they work and they may be looking at other areas of opportunity to move into other fields and the like. And whilst I wasn't in that space, I found pretty quickly that I really loved it.
What do you love about it?
Oh, just the ability to be able to service and see the gratification out of individuals, whether it be events, whether it be weddings, whether it be unfortunate instances of life celebrations. The ability to be able to know and acknowledge that people have enjoyed their experiences, for me, is really powerful, and I love that. The operational component of it as well, and I've had the opportunity to work in hospitality in some jobs that were quite robust, and the ability to have that operational component, it's really nice as well, which I enjoy.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Obviously being, well, I say obviously, but that's an assumption really, but I would have thought being a general manager, it's not operationally as hands-on.
Not necessarily now, but having said that, we are a small operation, so the ability to be on the tools is important in small operations. But certainly, as a general manager, you have that balance between the ability to set your team up for success, and to be able to run your entity as much as it is to be hands-on and ensure that the deliverables are there as well. But as you know, mate, you're judged as a manager on how successful and how well your venues run when you're not there, than when you are when you're there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm intrigued now. Is there any firm relationship between the Albury Club and the commercial club that exists today, or is it?
No, there isn't. No. And whilst we're less than a foot kick away from each other, and literally our back door backs into the commercial clubs, we're very different entities in that respect, and have a great respect for each other and what we do and our key deliverables to our core membership bases. But we are very different products and entities as such. But we both, as I said, geographically reside very close to each other, but that'd be it.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of who you'd consider to be your competition, and we don't have to go in depth, but I'm just intrigued. The competition for the club in the space that you are, what venues do you see as a kind of competition?
I guess if you're looking at the varied market segments that the Albury Club has as a business entity, in terms of membership, we don't really have any peers in that space. There are other clubs, i.e. the SSNA or the commercial club and the like, that have membership bases, but our membership base is somewhat different in as much as that the process of engagement and being a member is different.
Yes.
And in terms of venues and entities, I guess we have a few competing entities that would be in the event wedding space.
Yes,
So that would be our major competitors.
Depend on the event,
word.
essentially, who your competition is.
Yeah, so we rely heavily, as I said, on the wedding and event space, most definitely.
Yeah.
And so that would be where our, I suppose, our market competitors would lie. The fortuitous part for us is that we have a amazing membership base of circa 600 whom organically drive some good business through our entity already, which is great. And we also have a product that is, I'd say, unique, Matt, in terms of being a space in the middle of town where you can walk out into our rose garden and it's this amazing green oasis in the middle of Albury-Wodonga, which is amazing. So to have that internal space of the President's Room as a backup for inclement weather or events, and have that external space, which is amazing, really. We don't have too many peers in that regard.
Now, again, forgive my ignorance. I've never thought of myself as classy enough to be an Albury Club member. Is it a bit like the MCC? Is there a 10-year, 15-year waiting list?
Wait list as such, Matt, but certainly the ability to be a member, you need to have a proposer and a seconder. So you need to have a current member or two current members to place you up as members or for membership for nomination. Nomination forms are placed up on a notice board for 21 days for members to review, and post that they're then provided to the board to then vote on whether or not they deem them as being suitable candidates for membership. So,
and you would have a strict limit, obviously. I mean, you said 600.
At 600 is where we're currently at. We're at a nice base at the moment with the current members. In some of the challenging days, there would have been a lot less membership than that. Fortunately, we've got a really strong base of I would say younger, for want of a better word, members who have been really proactive in recognising what membership the Albury Club provides, and being proactive in promoting their peers. So I would now have sort of 20% of our members would be 50, 55 and under, which for a private club is quite unique. To have such a broad demographic of younger member profile in your club is fabulous. So, and our younger members love the place, and they're in fact probably the membership cohort which are more strict, for want of a better word, in terms of some of the history and traditions around some of the dress for some of our events and the like. They love the fact that we've got some of that old history and traditions and some of the things that we do, which is great. So
that's terrific.
Yeah.
We're going to dip in and out of the actual club and the way that it works and your interactions with the community, but I want to get back to you. So you're at Hayman Island.
So fortunate enough to be on Hayman Island, as I said, for 3 years, and absolutely loved my time through Ansett. It was a time that as I said, gave me great foundations in hospitality and 5-star service. And from there, fortunate enough to go to Melbourne, or back to Melbourne, and worked at a restaurant where a chef called Eric Frama opened up. He was a head chef for Jacques Ramon's for Melbourne for a long time. He opened up his own restaurant in Armidale called Restaurant Saucier. And so I went down there, worked with him, opened that up for 2 years. He ended up getting 2 chef hats. It was an amazing small fine dining French restaurant, and thoroughly enjoyed my time, but really missed the island again. So fortunate enough to get back up to Hayman for another stint for 2 years. And at that time, it had changed through my earlier times. It was owned by Ansett, and money was no object, and it lost a lot of money, hence why Ansett went belly up. But when I went back, Ansett had gone. It was owned by Deutsche Bank at the time, and they were very strong financially and knew and understood how to run a business. And so my second stint there, I had some fantastic mentors that were able to provide the balance between service and serviceability of your clients in a 5-star range, but also not losing sight of the economics, which you need in business as well, and the ability to be able to ensure that you can keep the doors open, not just service people. So spent a couple of years again on Hayman, which was fabulous, and then rose into assistant food and beverage manager there, which was quite a big gig, and then moved into Central Australia, which is fabulous. I went to Kings Canyon Resort in Central Australia that was owned by Voyagers. So they had a fantastic product of 4.5-star, 3 and camping. It was a fabulous time, 2.5 years with Voyagers there. Started as a food and beverage manager, working through to the general manager there. Fantastic product in the middle of Central Australia, and really loved my time. Voyagers then bought some of the P&O properties. They had some of the islands resort, Dunk Island, Fraser. They had a heap of resorts that they owned, and they bought a couple of resorts in Cape Tribulation. So they set me up there to run those resorts for them in the Daintree, which is fabulous. So they had 2 resorts, as well as boat touring and land touring and the like as well. So spent another 2 years up at the Daintree with Voyagers running those products for them, which was great, and really loved my time. Got to see a lot up there, which is fabulous, and from there into Central Australia again. So a little bit more travel into Lassiter's Group, and Lassiter's Group at the casino there in Alice Springs, which was amazing time, an amazing venue and entity owned by some business owners out of KL. They were very, very astute business people, and they had a great product and entity in Lassiter's. It was a product that was very, very successful financially. So the ability for myself at the time as the food and beverage man moving into the operations manager was amazing, in which that I got a lot of time to build and develop new restaurants from concept to scratch, to conference centres. We had a world-class conference centre there. It was an amazing product and amazing time. And Central Australia and Alice Springs itself is a beautiful spot. Fortunate enough to meet my wife there as well, which is great.
I was going to ask you about family, because there's a lot of moving around.
A lot of moving and shaking. So you're fortunate enough to meet my wife there, and she wasn't born but grew up in Alice Springs, which is fabulous as well. So at that stage, Lassiter's had then bought majority ownership of the Cypress Lakes Group in the Hunter Valley. Cypress Lakes Group had Cypress Lakes Resort and the Golden Door properties, which are the sort of luxury health retreats in Alicia and Willowvale in Queensland. So when they bought majority ownership of that, they actually sent me out there to manage those properties for them, and that was a big job, from a job at Lassiter's, which was still a robust job in its nature and through revenues, but then moving through to the Cypress Lakes Group that had circa 350 FTE equivalent, $30 million turnover in entities that were across 2 states was quite a big job. And at that stage, the property they had bought wasn't or the group they had bought wasn't significantly financially stable. So they'd sort of set me out there to shake the tree and try and steer the ship into somewhat better waters and to try and change things financially for the group.
Yeah. So far, they're all very different experiences, but obviously they must have commonalities between all of them. What are the fundamentals for you to be successful, regardless of what the actual hospitality experience is?
Yeah, I guess the foundation, and you touched on it earlier, studying business, I guess it provided me with a platform to recognise, acknowledge how to count and how you need to navigate the ways to ensure that things can be financially stable. And so whilst the hospitality entities in business and each of those were somewhat different, they weren't necessarily unique. In hospitality, the deliverables may be different for the different entities, but they don't quantumly change. But the ability to have sound financial understanding of a business is really key, I think. And so each of those entities, and more so the last which we talked about with the Cypress Lakes Group, they had some significant financial challenges. Operationally, the owners certainly weren't short of money, but when the actual business they had bought was challenged. Each of those business units are different, but the fundamentals of being able to financially run a business successfully still stays there.
Yeah.
And that's I suppose the common goal.
So all of them so far have been, exotic locations to some extent. But Central Australia, far north Queensland, et cetera, et cetera. So when did you start having thoughts of moving back to what I would say would be home here?
Yeah, great question, Matt. So the 2.5 years at Cypress Lakes, I enjoyed, but it was a very challenging time. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but then you're right, I started to think about the balance of those, the moving / current locations and then school and the like. So then moved to Melbourne.
Yeah.
From there and
So you had kids at this stage.
Yeah. So we moved down to Melbourne, which was fabulous, and got a role with the Keysborough Golf Club, which is a private members golf club in Melbourne. It was, in fact, not too dissimilar to Cypress in as much as financially it was in a precarious position, albeit it had an amazing product in terms of its golf course, amazing rich history. But it was in a time in the sort of 2010-11 of which that golf in that sort of region of Melbourne was quite saturated with a significant amount of golf clubs, and so a lot of those private golf clubs that were at the sort of the tier 2 level were really challenging. Were being challenged financially. So I moved down to there, which was great, and fortunate enough we're able to change the times in terms of the golf club success, and we'll be able to go through that a little bit later potentially, Matt, but it was a great time. I spent 8 years at the golf club down there, and we went from being challenged financially to being a very financially stable club, which is great. But my mum and dad were still in Albury, and I still loved Albury. And so the opportunity arose to be able to come back up to Albury, to a place that I generally loved, to bring the family back up here and settle down and find enrichment in terms of jobs, but equally as important, have that connection back to the region and with family as well.
And when was that?
And that would have been 7 years ago now. So 6-7 years ago. So
did you know much about the Albury Club?
Not at that stage. No, obviously I grew up in Albury, Matt. But to be fair, my peer circle growing up, I didn't have a lot to do with the Albury Club.
We all know it's there.
Yeah, but not necessarily everyone gets or has had the chance to go. So I didn't know much about the Albury Club, to be fair. And then when I moved back to Albury, I didn't move straight into the Albury Club, but I certainly embraced the opportunity when it come up to be able to jump in and to take on the reins, because it as an institution, geez, it's impressive, and the ability that it has to, as I said, to look after its members and the greater community has been really powerful.
Do you have a sense of greater responsibility because it's such a long-standing institution?
I certainly, I think all the members, to be fair, and our board and staff all recognise, acknowledge the foundations that the Albury Club has and the rich history that it has. And I'm not sure if legacy is the right word, but certainly we recognise, acknowledge that there's an incredible amount of history that the Albury Club has, and so we're proud of that fact. And I suppose the ability for us to be able to understand, recognise, acknowledge that is really nice as well.
How do you balance the history and what the club has stood for with an ever more kind of progressive culture?
Yeah, I guess, Matt, the foundations of the club are there, but ever changing are the dynamics of what our membership are and what the experience of thereafter. And so the Albury Club has been really proactive in recognising, acknowledging, yes, there's changing times and socially there's variations from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago of what expectations were of individuals in terms of their home life and also their social lives. So we've been really proactive, ensuring that we can keep in touch with what our members expect and their experiences are of a private members club.
Yeah,
and within that, not losing sight of what the history is. And I guess if you're not keeping in tune with what your members are after and the social parameters around what your basis of membership is, well, then you won't have any members.
Yeah, and you were mentioning it earlier, actually, the fact that younger people are embracing the history of it, because there is a cachet to being a part of something that's lasted for so long.
There is, Matt, and I guess the members have, is that every member has their varied level of expectation of what they want from a private membership or being a member of the Albury Club. We have members that come down literally 4 or 5 times a week. We have members that will come down to our major events and see that as being what their benefit is out of being a member of the Albury Club. So again, keeping in touch with what each of our membership segments are after is really important.
Yeah, and for you personally, so 7 years at the Albury Club?
No, 4.5 years at the Albury Club, yeah.
Right. Have you enjoyed being home? I mean, is this now something where you go, look, I really don't want to move anywhere else now. I do want to stay.
Yeah, it is, Matt. And I made the conscious decision, I suppose, from some of the large roles I've had in moving back into Albury, recognising, acknowledging that an ability to find a balance between the work-home life is really, really important. And so the Albury Club really provides that. And I've been fortunate enough and unfortunate enough to work with some other places where the boards and structures haven't been as stable and the ability to have that work-life balance hasn't been provided, whereas at the Albury Club, they're massively embracive in terms of recognising knowledge that there needs to be that balance between the work, home and life, which has been really great. So I joke to my wife all the time that I'm going to retire at the Albury Club because I absolutely love it. I love the inclusivity that has the membership themselves. They're unbelievably embracive of the Albury Club and passionate and proud of the club, which is really nice. And they, as a operator and as a manager, again, allow me to take the reins, which is really nice as well. And you don't always get that in business, Matt, or in clubs and the like, whereas you have that ability to be able to, through the guidance of a board and the members, to be able to take the reins and do things in hospitality, which is really nice. And there's other entities and spaces that you probably don't get that flexibility of, which is really nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, that's a good word, actually, isn't it? Flexibility, because as you were saying, that works into the home life aspect as well, and that balance. So what does that look like to you when work's finished? What do you enjoy doing here on the border?
On the border itself, I'm with the youngest now being 8, pretty tied up with kids and kids sport, which is fabulous. So whether it be Auskick, whether it be cricket, whether it be basketball, fair bit of time spent with the kids, which is great. But I'm a foodie at heart, and as most of us are in hospitality. So the ability to get out and enjoy our great restaurants and bars, and that is something I really enjoy with the wife as well, which is good. Yeah.
So we have a question actually that we tend to ask, which is looking ahead in kind of 5-year chunks. Yep. But you've almost really answered that. I mean, there's no yearning to. I mean, often in the first part of your career, you do have a yearning to experience different things, and obviously you did.
Yep.
You went around everywhere. But for the next 5 years, you envisage that you'll be at the Albury Club.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt, and beyond, hopefully.
Yeah.
That I guess the first 4 years at the Albury Club have been about stability and an ability to not grow, because grow is not the right word, but to provide some strong foundations financially for the club.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, we've undertaken some significant capital works. We've replaced the whole roof. We've done the front facade of the Albury Club, which looks amazing. More importantly, perhaps to our members, Matt, we've put a new beer system in, so we've got the best cold beer in Albury, which is great. So we've been able to do some fundamental things through capital works that perhaps we haven't been for a long period of time. And the roof itself, I suggest that the board for the last 30 years have been hoping to replace the roof. So the ability to do some of those capital works has been really powerful.
Yeah.
We've cemented ourselves as a real iconic venue in the wedding space, and as of this year, we won the best wedding venue historic for Albury-Wodonga, North Eastern Riverina. In fact, nationally in the awards held at the Crown Palladium in Melbourne, we placed third in Australia in historic venues for weddings.
Wow.
Which is fabulous. So we've been able to cement our position as being a bespoke boutique product for events and weddings, which is really nice. And I suppose moving forward, solidifying that position, but then also ensuring we're providing the amenities and service for our members that they expect is something that I see being a key goal for the sort of next 5 to 10 years of the club.
So with strong membership, does that give you firmer foundations to weather any storm? And by a storm, I'm kind of thinking, say, COVID, for example, because a lot of venues, obviously, that aren't membership-based, that need people just coming through the door, obviously their business was often devastated through that period. But does that give you that firmer foundation?
It certainly gives you a really solid base to drive from, absolutely, Matt, whether it be the general patronage of a Friday night with our members coming down, whether it be using that as a base for organically growing events, weddings, the like, that certainly helps. So having that membership base who are rusted on, they love the place, they love the club, really provides a sound foundation, no doubt, for success of the club. And that natural network that those membership provide as well, and that butterfly effect that those members provide in terms of them enjoying their experience, their hospitality experience at the Albury Club, and organically driving business back into us certainly helps, no doubt.
Yeah, terrific. Well, I mean, I always love talking to people who are clearly passionate and happy with where life has taken them through sometimes good fortune, but obviously hard work as well, and just finding the right space to work in that kind of matches your personality. And so, and that's certainly what I get from you, Dee. So I would imagine that you wouldn't really change anything so far. I mean, everybody makes mistakes and stuff, but it sounds to me like you've been very satisfied with the direction that you've taken.
Certainly from a career perspective, I've been very fortunate and enjoyed all the positions and places that I've worked for the most. So I'd be hard pressed to make any significant variations to what I've done. That's terrific.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you and finding a little bit about your journey. We often end our chats with 3 questions. They're perfect for you, actually, because the first one is very much focused on here on the border, and I know being in hospitality, you talk to a lot of people from different parts of Australia as well, and this is tailor-made for you. If someone was coming to visit Albury-Wodonga for the first time, give me a few things that you would say, you have to do this when you're here.
Without a doubt, and even I touched on it earlier, Matt, the number one thing for me, and it's probably not unique for want of a better word, our river is our lifeline and our blood, and going for a float down the river, I just think that is the most amazing thing to have that here in Albury-Wodonga, to be able to whether you jump on a tube or jump in the river and go for a float down and enjoy the river, I think is the most amazing thing. So that would be certainly a number one. Number two, and I'm probably speaking as a hospo and a foodie, our restaurant and bar scenes in the Albury are amazing, and I know certainly through COVID and even post-COVID and currently hospitality holistically are doing it pretty tough. So I'd be encouraging any of my guests, any of the peers, anyone here in the region to get out and support our local restaurants, whether
Yes.
it be go down to see Wazim at La Maison, or have a wood-fired pizza at downtown, or have a coffee with Gurus, whatever it is. Get out and support our hospitality industry. We've got amazing restaurants. We've got a chef hat restaurant, Yardbird. Geez, we've got some amazing places here in Albury-Wodonga. So I'd be certainly encouraging, and I do that with any of my peers or friends that come to the region. I get out and about and show our fantastic venues and hospitality spaces and restaurants and bars, because we've got some amazing products here.
Yeah. Speaking of which, are you a sweet or a savoury person? If you
I'm
had to
definitely a
choose?
savoury person, and cheese. As much as I do love dessert, I'm a cheese man, and so it's savoury all the way.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, do you have any great recommendations for us, whether it's something you read or watched?
Yeah, and perhaps leaning on the hospitality angle, I've just finished a series called the Toke 12. It's a series that reviews a lot of different restaurants and by a restaurateur called Philip Davenport, and he's a chef by trade, but he goes around and highlights in his last season, season 12, all the restaurants in sort of south of the equator. So a lot of fine dining restaurants in Singapore, a couple in Australia, and through Asia, where he goes through and does some background and history on those restaurants and a bit of insight into each of those spaces. And so, being a foodie, I loved it. The ability to be able to glean some information and check out some of the other hospo scenes, which is great. And it's led me to, as in a couple of weeks ago, going over to Singapore and checking out some of those restaurants and everything, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Dee Healey, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and learning a little bit about your journey, but also about the great institution that is the Albury Club. Thank you so much for popping in and sharing your journey.
I appreciate your time, mate. Thank you.